Do you need a new sword in the first Witcher game but don't know where to get any of those fancy unique ones? Well, today's episode is for you. Welcome to the Shaman's Horde on Nyxus Gaming. Today we're going to be talking about Meteorites and Runes. Now these are crafting materials that you can use to make or upgrade your swords in any combination of 3. Now it's very important to note that runes do not mix with meteorites. Runes are purely for silver swords, and meteorites are purely for steel swords. You'll see in my inventory here, I have a collection of 3 of each. For the meteorites, we got red, blue, and yellow. And for the runes, we got earth, moon, and sun. Now, in order to use these, you're going to want to go to any blacksmith's house, and the blacksmith should be able to forge for you. Now, there is one more important distinction before we get into it. You'll notice here that I have a Witcher's Steel Sword. When you go to craft a Meteorite Sword, we'll go for this one, 3 pieces of blue Meteorite Steel. You'll notice that I dropped my previous sword on the ground. That is because when you make a Meteorite sword, you make a new sword. When you do a rune sword, however, for a silver sword, you do not make a new sword. I'm saying sword a lot. Instead of making a new one, you will only apply to the runes to a previous sword. So right now I have a Witcher's silver sword, and when I make this rune sword right here, a sword doesn't drop on the ground. That's my previous steel sword. There is no silver sword on the ground. If we look at my inventory, I now have a rune sword. I have turned my previous silver sword into a rune sword. So again, very important distinction. You make Meteorite steel swords, and you upgrade silver swords into rune swords. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. The first type of meteorite we are going to go over is red meteorite, and we're doing this one first because it, in my opinion, is the easiest to understand. Whenever you add red meteorite to any one of your swords, the only thing you're going to get from it is base damage output. If you put 1 piece of red meteorite into a sword, you're going to get 5% extra damage from that sword, but that's not all. This type of meteorite compounds with each additional use. If you throw 2 red meteorite pieces in it, then you're going to get 20% damage increase. And if you throw all 3 in as red meteorite, you're going to get 40% damage increase. And you'll also get a little bonus effect, 30% bleeding damage. So very nice if you want just damage output. This is honestly one of the best steel sword combinations in the game. So nothing wrong with just using meteorite. Yellow meteorite works very similarly to red meteorite, except it does not compound when you use multiple bits of it. Instead, each piece of yellow meteorite will get you 8 more damage percentage. It'll get you 10% stun chance, 10% pain chance, and 10% precise hit chance. This means that whenever you add 2 yellow meteorite, you'll instead get 16% damage, and then 20% of the rest. And of course, with a full yellow meteorite sword, you'll get 30% of all the stat boosts, and then 24% damage. It is a flat rate instead of the compounding of the red meteorite. You will also still get the 30% bleeding chance bonus for a full yellow meteorite sword, much like the full red meteorite sword. Now, blue meteorite is where it gets a little complicated, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't fully understand how it works myself. I'm gonna do my best to explain it. A full blue meteorite sword will get you 45% pain chance and 20% disarming. You do not get the bleeding bonus from it. So one would assume that a single blue meteorite would get you some combination of disarming and pain. When you go to mix in red meteorite, you lose the disarming completely. Instead, you get the pain bonus, and you get the damage bonus from red. That is all you get from mixing blue and red meteorite. Now remember that yellow meteorite gives you pain, stun, and precise hit. If you mix blue and yellow meteorite, you no longer get the stunning chance, but you do get to keep the disarming this time. For whatever reason, when you mix it with red, you lose the disarming. And when you mix it with yellow, you lose the stunning from the yellow. You still get the damage boost from yellow, you still get the precise hit and the pain from it. But I'm also not sure how much of it you get to keep of each, because the percentages are kind of all over the place. So just know, full blue, disarm and pain, blue and red, pain and damage, blue and yellow, damage, precise hit, disarm, and pain. I know, it's very confusing. Like I said, I don't fully understand. And finally, for those that are curious, when you just do a balanced mix of one of each color of meteorite, you do just get a pretty much fully balanced sword. It comes out yellow in the actual icon there, but you'll see you get the 8% from the yellow plus the 5% damage from the red, gives you 13% damage. You still get the 10% pain, stun, and precise hit from the yellow, and then you get 10% pain from the blue. No disarming and no bleeding bonus either, but still a very balanced sword. The runes I am going to do all together in one section here, because while I do seem to have a basic understanding of what they do, the extent and combinations of what they do are pretty much more confusing than the blue meteorite. So we'll start with the Earth rune. The Earth rune is the only rune that will add damage to your weapon. A single Earth rune seems to give 15% damage per rune, and sometimes not. For the most part, it will add a knockdown percentage to the weapon as well, up to 75%. Now, while that is the only rune that adds a damage boost, the Moon rune will increase an enemy's weakness to silver when you apply it. So you may not be getting that damage increase from the base, but the enemy will be taking more damage because it is more sensitive to the silver you are cutting it with. The Sun rune is a little more complicated, and I feel like that's when things start to get weird. It can add incineration, blinding, and precise hit chances when you use it, but it could be more, it could be less. It can go up to 75%. Sometimes you won't get one of those buffs. Sometimes you'll get all three. It's very strange how these runes work when upgrading. Like I said, more confusing than the blue meteorite, and I didn't feel like really going through them all. I'm gonna try and add text to this in editing to help you guys see it in words better, because I don't feel like I'm explaining it too well. But yeah, that's the gist of what they all add. Not explained very well. I hope they do make it easier in the remake in the future, but that's pretty much all you need to know about upgrading and making your own weapons in this game. It's really not worth getting into, but it is something that's interesting to know about, if you ask me. That's why I did the guide on it. Next time we'll be getting into some of the top equipment in the game, though, in the Shaman's Horde. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye!